Hello and welcome to my video ramble on how I do a broad shoulder adjustment on the Love Notions Rhapsody blouse. So first up, apologies for lighting. My kids are finally asleep and nighttime is about the only time my house is quiet enough to do this. So we will persist anyway. Now I have here my back piece, which I'll set aside because I don't need it for now. And the two bits we're working with are our yoke and our front. Now I'm doing a full bust XL. I did forget to turn off layers, so we're working with what we can today. So to start off with, I'm going to see how there's this marking along here that shows you where that shoulder seam is, roughly parallel with here. I'm going to zoom along there. Doesn't need to be perfect. Ta-da. So that, in theory, has made it like a standard back rather than a yoke. Now, this is obviously going to be a fair bit larger because it gets gathered in. However, for now, obviously we're working with this part of it, so we're going to line up here. Now we're going to roughly take off, and again I say roughly because I am exhausted and we are not. Oops, and I've run out of sticky tape, being fiddly this time of night. So my darling children removed all of my sticky tape and cutters. So today we are with a roll of tape and a pair of scissors, going old school. So roughly like that. Now I've lined it up, eyeballing centimetre seam. So from here we'll start with the yoke. It's probably easier, and I do apologise, I'm very tired, so it's probably a rather rambling one. So about halfway along here, I'm going to say about there, we're going to cut to roughly 2/3 of the way down our arm side, leaving about a 1/4 inch. Oops, that one was a bit scant, but see how that makes it so that we've got a bit of a pivot there. Rightio. So now we'll grab ourselves a piece of blank paper. My inch rulers are down in my sewing room near my sleeping baby, so understandably we are not going anywhere near those because she put up a hell of a fight today. So normally I'd go about 3/4 of an inch. I can't be bothered doing conversions. I'm sure it's a bit under 2 for the sake of simplicity. We're doing 2. So I'm going to mark out on a straight line like that the extra amount that I want to add in here. Now, it's surprising how little of an adjustment makes such a big difference in these shoulders. So I'm 6'1". I have very broad shoulders for a girl, and I find about that 3/4 of an inch is enough for me. So I'm going to line up this along here. I don't know if you can see that very well. So I've got my line, and where this point is where my cut on our pattern piece is. I'm just going to stick it there. Now, I've dropped the end of the sticky tape. Sorry, this is not going to be a very professional how-to video, but hopefully it will. There we go. There's our end of our sticky tape. Right. Pop that on there for now. And I'm going to stick down. I'll see if I should have done this with coloured paper, so it would have been easier. So you can see that's my pattern piece. I'm going to stick it, and it's on that line nicely. I'm going to stick down this part. Now, we're left with our pivot, and what we're going to do with it is line it up with the marking of our adjustment. So don't be alarmed, you will get obviously some angles and wild things happening here. That's okay. We can live with that. We will chop it off and do things like that. So I'm going to stick it about there so you can see that that pattern piece, hopefully you can see, is lining up on that line there. So I've gotten that much more. I'll stick him down. There. My fingers are not working with any sort of dexterity today. I'll stick all of this down here, and then that's going to be our new pattern piece. So a little bit of a hack job under here to get rid of what we don't need and bugger that piece off. Okay, so then we're going to follow around here with our original pattern piece. I think I've got that where you can see it. And then zoom along this top edge. Now I sort of just straighten out, taking that angle from the beginning to there. So see, we've taken off this bit here. That's going to be fine. It's nice and aligned there. So, and we'll continue to cut around our arm side, or however you say it. I have no idea. And there we go. There is our back yoke piece done like that. Now, if you were using a different pattern that didn't have a forward yoke, that would just be the end of the tutorial. Do that front and back and you'd be done. However, we have to do a little bit of mucking around with this one because it has the forward yoke business. So I'm going to chop, I might even draw this to make it more sense, roughly, just to make this work. So it's 2/3 from this marking here in your arm side, about 2/3 there. So I'm going to go about here up to roughly halfway, maybe not quite halfway, up there. Hopefully that showed through. And again, we're going to leave that 1/4 inch away from the edge so that we've got our nice little pivot like that where it's still attached. And then we'll draw our line again. I keep putting things everywhere around. That's not helpful, correct? We'll draw our line through with a 0, and we did 2 centimeters, so it's that same adjustment again. And we'll pop it under. Oops, I think I've done a mischief. It's going to be easier if I put that marking down around here. Beautiful. So we're going to be lining up the angle of the dangle there with that straight line. Beautiful. Oops, and again we need to cut some sticky tape. Cut a few at once. Would have been better if I'd done that at the beginning, sorry. Again, the old brain is not working. So, sit it like that, and we're going to splay that out to stick him nicely down there. Now, with my other piece of paper, we're going to take our pivoting. So this is just like a slash and spread. So we've done our slash, and then we're going to spread it out and stick it down about there. Lots of sticking. Because this one gets re-chopped, I like to do quite a bit of sticking and mucking around with this. But anyway, hear me out. So, oops, stuck to the table. Fantastic. So then we're going to chop out our pattern piece. Now it gets a little bit different here because of the whole business. So from that edge, we are starting again to chop off that excess triangle, and we'll go along here. And then I sort of see, you can see from the slash and spread how that line goes up here. I go from the edge of it across to there. So this is where it gets a little bit dodgy, but hang with me. So we're just going to chop this piece off here. And now inside, under that part, you'll see that we've cut off our lovely seam allowance. So we're going to have to stick that back on, but we'll deal with that in a minute. So we've got this yoke piece that hopefully now should go back on. Look at that. There. Lovely. So, where's my piece of sticky tape? We'll stick it back how it was, and that is our back yoke now with its forward piece all adjusted and ready to go. A bit more sticky tape because the world's better with more sticky. Stick your little bugger. Right. Ta-da! One piece done. And don't mind the brown parts. I have a very old table that I love from my childhood, but it is currently removing the stain off it as I use the sticky tape, but it is completely buggered and needing to be redone. So for the sake of today, we're not worrying about that. Now, random excess piece of paper. See how we've got this seam allowance that got chopped off? I'm just going to remake that. Stick, stick, stick. And chop here. So we'll continue our arm so around like that. And then double checking. Sorry, I can never remember. I always forget to look at the camera and see where I'm actually. We're just going to shuffle along here, roughly guesstimating. Ta-da! We got our seam allowance back on there. And you can see we've done our slash and spread part here. And we now have, when I get rid of all my mess, a new pattern pieces with our 2 centimeter broad shoulder adjustment. Anyway, I hope that helps. Sorry for the rambling. Yes, this is what 10 o'clock at night Claire brain gets. Thank you. Bye.